Hi, I wanted to speak in defence of the Dutch guy. I mean, my first reaction is, what right do we have to criticise the Dutch justice system?
It's the British justice system, John.
Sorry?
He was convicted in Britain, John.
Well, okay, forgive me. What right do we have to assume that our system does not take atonement into account? Are we saying that people should pay and pay and pay indefinitely? That doesn't sound like a very Christian attitude to me, and taking into account the age of adulthood is 18, right, supposedly, but that's not a finite number. There's a range of abilities and understanding.
No, John, no, sir. No, and no again. Legal adulthood is at 18. The age of consent, it isn't. But those numbers are really, really important. There should be absolutely no flexibility around any of that.
Are we suggesting
he was an adult, she was a child, she was completely years and years, years below the age of consent. And he knew. I know.
Are we suggesting that wasn't taken into account, that the punishment wasn't fair?
Well, I think the punishment should have been longer. Absolutely. I can't believe that the bloke only served 12 months behind bars. I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
People should be aware of what he was charged with. That's absolutely true. He
wasn't charged. He was charged and convicted and pleaded guilty to it. So it's not just a charge. He did it. Now his job involves him being around children in an Olympic Village setting where there are kids under the age of not just 18, but I think 16 too. Why should they be put at that risk?
One has to presume that the guy's learned a lesson. I mean, if he's truly not learned a lesson, then he doesn't belong out of prison. Clearly, But he may have kids of his own. I don't know.
So you're right to say that once people have served their time, that's what their punishment is, and then that form of the punishment is over.
Yes.
And there has to be a world in which people who commit very serious crimes have to be able to work after they've finished in prison. They have to be able to do some jobs, otherwise their state are going to be paying for them forever.
Yes, all I'm saying is I don't think it's up to us or even the LBC audience to presume that we know a suitable punishment for what he did.
We don't need to worry about that. The punishment has been given. The question is what happens now, and whether or not it is reasonable, justifiable for someone who has committed an offence this serious to be representing their country at the Olympic Games, where children will also be.
Listen, do you not think that he is going to be kept a very close eye on all the time?
Why should we? Why should that? Why should a risk even be considered in this setting? You wouldn't do it in a school. You wouldn't say, "Oh, well, yes, they committed this horrific crime, but there's some risk they might go and do this." But it just wouldn't happen.
You're going back to.
Why are you putting children at risk by having this guy in the Olympic Village? At greater risk than they otherwise would be.
In the first place, which was that we are presuming to know that we know what the right punishment is for his crime, rather than
No, I'm saying that there are jobs that he can't get given his crime, rightly so. Should one of those jobs be Olympic athlete, given that they're in the village, living there, and there are also living there children?
I'm in your corner, right? That guy should not be at the Olympics. I've got a criminal record. For me to get a job is hard.
Yeah.
How the hell is he gone to the Olympics of a sex offender? He should have got more than 12 months imprisonment. He should have got life. 100%. He shouldn't be in there. Paula Radcliffe she's an idiot. Right, saying we should win good luck. How can you let a rapist go to the Olympics? There's young kids in the Olympics. How can you trust him? You wouldn't put a murderer into the Olympics. You wouldn't put a bank robber, as you said, into the Olympics. How can you put a rapist raping a young kid into the Olympics? It's a serious crime.
If you commit a serious crime against a child, you should not be in the public eye. End of. That's the end of it.
What do you mean by the public eye?
You're going to be an Olympian, so you're going to become a role model to young people that aim to do what you're doing. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? There's going to be young children. I've got a teenage daughter. And if she wouldn't approach a stranger, but if she saw Beyonce walking down the street or whoever her idol is, she may well feel comfortable and feel like that's a safe person to approach. He's now in a position of power as well as being a predator, which is what he is. Also, to consider the fact that there's gymnasts there as well.
Yep.
That are normally young. I mean, my daughter's dancer and she
there are literally children competing in the Olympics.
Yeah, I know. My daughter represented England in a dance competition earlier on this year. She was 13 at the time. Parents and everybody else had to have a DBS check. I wasn't competing, but I had to be DBS checked because other people's children are there running around in next to nothing dance costumes. It would be a dream for somebody like him to be in a room like that.
So the rule is that if you want to compete in a sport in which there might be children also competing or even there, you have to go through checks which would screen out anyone with a conviction of this type.
Yeah.
Okay, so now imagine a set of circumstances in which someone who's very, very good at a particular sport but has a conviction like this is competing in an arena in which there are children watching in the stands. Should they be banned from that?
They should be banned. They should be banned. Why should... Yes, he served his sentence, but there are lifelong consequences to the actions that he did. Just like he's now on a sex offenders register. That's a lifelong consequence of being a paedophile.
In what area shouldn't those consequences apply? So what job should he be able to have? Because he's got to work. I don't want to pay taxes to look after this bloke for the rest of his life. So what job can he do? Should he be able to do with that conviction? He can do a job
where he's not, for one, that is a privilege. It's not just a job, it is a privilege. To represent your country is a privilege. He's not entitled to that privilege because he is a paedophile.
Okay, so he can't represent his country, but what job can he do?
He could do an office job.
But what about the people in the office who say, God, I don't bloody want to sit next to a paedophile, thank you very much.
Well, maybe they get him an office. Well, they've gone through so many problems, they've got him his own place to stay, so maybe they could get him his own office. I mean,
they've got to pay for his own office now for this guy to work in.
Well, maybe he should start his own business. My thing is, he wouldn't be allowed to teach volleyball in this country.
No.
But yet he can represent his country.
Louise, I agree with you. I don't think he should be there. I think if I were on the team, if I were playing beach volleyball next to this bloke, I don't think you'd want to, would you? I think you'd say this is, no one's going to cheer for you. No one's going to applaud any success you have because the bloke that you're playing next to is a paedophile. But the punishment was at least a year in prison. I mean, forget it. But there it was. It was a year in prison. He completed that punishment. You have to have people able to get on with some form of existence after committing a crime.
The consequences of what he's done, they're going to be with his life. I mean, yes, he's served his sentence. That's over. But the consequences are going to be with him. And he wasn't thinking about the consequences of his victim. That's going to be with her for the rest of her life.
Correct.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, if he is in the Olympics, he's going to have a platform like some of your previous callers. He's going to be looked upon as in a role model point of view, and that potentially could put other children at risk. So to be safe, to keep the vulnerable safe, his options for the Olympics have to be restricted. I wouldn't have him anywhere near representing a country to say the best person that we can find to do this particular sport happens to be a paedophile. That is not a representation that I would want for my country. So as far as I'm concerned, he needs to sit out and watch the Olympics at home.
Paul, I agree with you on that last point completely. I don't understand. Surely there's somebody else who could fill a spot on the beach volleyball team for the Dutch at the Olympics, rather than literally picking a man who admitted 3 counts of raping a 12-year-old girl.
I mean, just the very thought of
it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But what's the rule? The rule is we can rehabilitate people. We can accept absolutely that people can change. We agree that there has to be a life for people, some form of existence, although limited in some important ways because of the crime they committed outside of prison once they've committed a crime of that nature. But one of the areas that we now all agree is unavailable to you, as teaching children would be, is representing your country at beach volleyball in the Olympics, or
well, to me, there's to me there's certain jobs which put you in the public domain.
What does What does being
he's
in
going to be
public,
representing.
hang on. What does being in the public domain mean? If you've got a Twitter profile, you are, in a sense, in the public domain.
Well, that's something that anyone can do if they've got a phone.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
he's been
but we're not going to say that he can't have a phone, or are we?
Well, hang on, wait a minute. What I'm saying is he's been placed there as a representative of his country.
Correct.
And that comes with certain responsibilities.
Right.
And one of them is that you cannot project a persona that can actually be dangerous to other people.
Okay, so the rule is, if you're convicted of a crime of this nature, you can't do a job that works around children, absolutely correctly. And we are saying that you will never, ever be able to represent your country in anything.
Well, I don't think it can be as binary as that.
There has to be a rule.
Well, yes, there has to be a rule, but it has to be applied with wisdom.